Hello YouTube. It has been a while since I made an actual face video, so just bear with me. But I wanted to talk to you today about, I'm sure you guessed it from the title of the video, but I wanted to talk about Ouija boards and the dangers of them and my personal experience with the Ouija board. So my first actual experience with the Ouija board was when I was about 9 years old. And that's very young to be using a Ouija board, but I knew absolutely nothing, zero. I knew nothing about the Ouija board. None of us did. So I remember it was my 9th Christmas. My grandma had came over, and my grandpa. My grandma doesn't like to be called grandma, so I call her Gammy. But she got us our first Ouija board. She got it specifically for my sister. She told us about this experience she had when she was younger, and that it was so cool that it actually worked and that it actually moved. So she had thought it was a great idea to get us one for Christmas. And there was stuff already going on in my childhood home before we even got the Ouija board in the house. There was stuff going on like at least a year or two before that. So my guess is probably the land out there where my mom lives. She still lives out there. She just has a new trailer. So the old trailer was given to one of my sister's friends. They bought it, and we had another one moved in. I live in my own house now, but this was obviously back when I was living there. But so my first actual experience with the Ouija board was when I was 9 years old, which is very young to be messing with the Ouija board. But like I said, we knew absolutely nothing about Ouija boards. We just thought it was some toy because you could buy it in any toy store. So at first, me and my sister, I remember on Christmas night, me and my sister messed with it. And my sister was like, come in my room and let's play the Ouija board. And so we did that. But at first we were just asking like stupid questions like, what's my initials? Who am I going to marry? When am I going to die? Which I don't think you're supposed to be asking the Ouija board when you're going to die. But it moved. And at first I didn't know if it was one of us moving it or not. But it was really interesting. And I was 9, so I was like really interested. And like, even before this, I believed in like, like spirits, and I believed in things like that because of the things that happened previously before we even got the Ouija board. So yeah, at first it was just like we would use it like every now and again, like just to ask stupid questions like that. Sorry, but like on the box it says ask the oracle questions or something like that. And then it gives like some questions that you can ask. So we asked basically all those like stupid, like meaningless questions. And we only used it, I would say maybe a couple times a week at first. And then we started getting some more weird things coming through. So when I say weird things, I mean like actual spirits coming through, which I'll explain more of this later, but I'll explain the air quotations later, because my mom had lost her brother before I was born, so we thought that her brother was coming through on the Ouija board, and we talked to him for months and months, probably years. We thought we were talking to him, and And also my mom's grandma, I think, or great grandma came through, or we thought it was them. And like, it was so nice at first. The Ouija board was very nice, very sweet. And like, my mom would ask questions that only her brother would know, and it answered correctly, so we thought it was her brother for the longest time. And she also asked just like random questions about herself that we wouldn't know, so she knew that one of us wasn't doing it, I guess. But she also asked questions about her grandma or great grandma, one of those. And all the answers were spot on, very spot on. So, like, it would like joke around with us and stuff, and we thought it was hilarious. We thought it was funny, but now looking back on it, it's kind of creepy. And also, when we thought my mom's brother was coming through, we would have our fingers on the planchette. I think that's how you say that. And it would go off, the planchette would go off of the Ouija board because we were doing it on the floor for some reason. And it would go off of the Ouija board. And I remember it would go through the living room, down the hallway, and then into the smallest bedroom in the hallway. So the planchette would go off the Ouija board and just move and travel where it wanted to, obviously with our fingers on it. But and then we would go get the board and bring it back to the room where we thought it wanted to be, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that is some freaky things that have happened, but there's a lot more just weird shit that happened. So my mom said when my uncle was alive that he liked to make like a lot of jokes, and at first we thought it was harmless. We thought it was him joking with us, but now looking back, it's just really, really weird. Like, it would call me and my sister a bitch or a prostitute, and this is going to be kind of weird, and I don't know why we thought it was him, but I remember one time it was joking around with us, or so we thought it was joking, and it said that it was going to pee on us, which is really, really, really weird looking back on it. But my mom said that her brother loved to joke around, so we thought it was him. And I don't know why we thought that was him, but yeah. And it would say weird things like that. Okay, sorry. But it would also tell us things like, we asked how heaven was, what heaven looked like. And it told us how beautiful heaven was, and, you know, just how happy everyone was up there. And looking back on things that happened, if you knew, I'm going to get to all this later, but if you knew the things that happened later on, and then you look back on this, it's really weird. So we started talking to it more and more and more and more. It's like they planted thoughts in our head to use the Ouija board as much as we can. And it became an obsession. It really, really did. We were obsessed with using the Ouija board. And looking back on it now, I feel like it was kind of like an oppression kind of thing, like them planting thoughts in our head to use the Ouija board. And so maybe a couple years or maybe more down the line, like, more things started coming through. Like, there was once this little boy. Well, we thought it was a little boy. It said it was a little boy, and that he had lost his mother, and that he was looking at my mom as his mom. So I think the little boy said that he had lost his mother in a car wreck or something similar to that. I can't remember the exact details on that one, but I know that he lost his mother either in a car wreck or maybe a fire. But there was like several little children that came through, and like they all said that some tragic thing happened to them. And looking back on it, that was to gain our trust. But even though stuff happened, even before we got the Ouija board, bringing the Ouija board into the house just intensified everything tenfold. Okay, so, this is going to sound kind of weird. So one day, me and my sister were in the grocery store, and there was this recorder, a digital recording device. I remember it was silver. I don't remember what brand it was or anything, but it was just sitting there on like one of the shelves, and it looked like it had been used. It looked like it wasn't, it looked like someone left it there for someone else to find. That's what it felt like. So me and my sister took it home, and I listened to it, and it was a bunch of things about God on there. Like, there's like this old man on there talking about God for like hours. That's all that was on there. So, for some reason, I mean, I believe in God and stuff, but for some reason, we deleted all of that. We deleted everything that guy put on there. And we started using that as a recorder to get EVPs. And we were poor back then, so we couldn't get like cameras or like, you know, any advanced equipment to ghost hunt or whatever. So we used that for EVPs. And I remember one night specifically, there was a lot of recordings on that thing. I don't know what happened to it, but this was the first one that we ever had. And I remember one night specifically, we put the Ouija board in that little room that I talked about earlier, the one where the planchette went off the board and went into that room. We put the Ouija board into that room. We put the planchette on the board, which you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to leave the planchette on the board. And we set the digital recording device, on top of the Ouija board, and we recorded when we went to bed, and it only recorded for like 30 minutes or so. And there was so much stuff in that 30 minutes of us recording. Yeah. There was little children running around, laughing, playing, running up and down the hallways, jumping on the bed. It sounded like someone, like, in the last room, it sounded like someone moving furniture around. And it also sounded like, you know how when you get an empty glass bottle and you blow into the top of it? It sounded like that. Like that. But you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever blown into a glass bottle, an empty glass bottle, you know the exact noise that I'm talking about. That's what it sounded like. And we heard like this deep voice talking. We heard just a bunch of stuff. And the thing that I will never forget was at the very end of this recording. So it only recorded 30 minutes and then it stopped by itself. But the thing that I will never, ever, ever forget is at the end of this recording, there was these very, very heavy, loud footsteps walking. And then there was a telephone ringing, an old telephone ringing. And we had no telephone, we had no toy that sounded like that, absolutely nothing in the house that sounded like that. It sounded like one of those old, you know, curly, the ones that you hook up into the wall and it has a cord attached to it. That's what it sounded like. Like an old version of a telephone. And once we heard those footsteps, and then we heard the ringing, and then we heard this very, very deep voice, and I will never forget it as long as I live. It sounded like, hello. Like, it was really, it was a deep, deep, deep voice. And I will never forget that as long as I live. And right after it said hello, like it answered the phone, it stopped recording by itself. And we wouldn't just catch things on the recorder. We would hear stuff with our own ears. We would hear the little kids running up and down the hallways. We would see shadows underneath our doors. We would hear things, you know, being thrown across the room, or see things being thrown across the room. And there's a lot of other stories that I'm going to get into eventually, but those are like the main things. And yeah, it was so creepy, and it was also interesting at the same time, which I wish it wasn't, and it still is to this day, because stuff still happens to this day. So back to the Ouija board. Like I said, it became an obsession for us. And we used this thing for years and years and years and years. I don't know how long. I think the last time I used the Ouija board was about 7 or 8 years ago. And that was the last time I ever touched it. So, after years of it making us trust it, thinking that it was my mom's brother, it was some little kids that had lost their mother, it was my mom's grandma or great-grandma. Yeah. And then it started to get a little more sinister after it knew that it had gained our trust. Oh, I had one more thing to tell you before I get to this next part. So, one day, I remember we were in the living room, and we were using the Ouija board, obviously, and we started talking about the dogs for some reason, and we started because we had a lot of dogs back then. We had like 15, 20 dogs, because my mom loved to, you know, pick up strays on the side of the road, even though we didn't really have money, like, to take care of all of them properly. She still, you know, we fed them all. They all had water and stuff like that. But, so we were talking about the dogs for some reason. And I remember, for some reason, we asked the Ouija board, who's your favorite dog? And it said Buster, which was, you know, one of the dogs. That, this dog, I think, well, Buster had passed away probably about 8 years ago or something. 7 to 8 years ago, I'm not sure. But it said Buster, and literally 30 seconds after the Ouija board said Buster, we heard the dogs barking like psycho outside. And then we ran outside, and Buster, the dog that it was just talking about, had jumped out of the fence that he was in and started a fight with another male dog. And Buster had actually got a piece of his ear torn out because of how brutal that fight was. And I think that's just kind of weird that it would say that its favorite dog is Buster when Buster's getting out to start a fight. And everybody else was in the house. Like, that's definitely, it's not a coincidence, no. Mm-mm. And another really weird thing that happened once, we were talking to it again, and I think, it was back when my grandparents still lived here. They moved to Arkansas, some years ago, but they were living here in Texas, really close to us. And we asked, like, I don't know why we asked this, but we asked, I think we still thought that it was my mom's brother at the time. And we asked, what are my grandparents, my mom and dad, what are they going to eat for dinner? And it said something that looks gross, something that looks like throw up. And so we called them, I think about 10 minutes after we got done using the Ouija board, and we asked them what they were eating for dinner, just out of curiosity. And they said that it was some kind of soup that looked like throw up. Like, that's kind of nasty, but it like looked like mush, like something nasty. And that's kind of a weird one, but I still think it's pretty weird and not a coincidence. Okay, so years go by after we first started using the Ouija board, and it started to get very mean. It started to... Okay, so like I said, we knew nothing about the Ouija board. We didn't know any of the rules. We didn't know you were supposed to say goodbye. We didn't know, any of the rules at all. And the Ouija board would go back and forth very, very, very fast. And it would go back and forth between Z-O, 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 which is Zozo, the Ouija board demon. And we knew absolutely nothing about this kind of stuff back then. So we didn't know what the hell Zozo was. And it would also go back and forth between M-A, 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 M-A. Very, very, very fast, like faster than you can imagine. And like I said, we knew nothing about any Ouija board demons. We didn't even know about demons back then. So we didn't read anything online that had maybe got into our head and like made us do that on the Ouija board. No, we knew absolutely nothing about Zozo. We knew nothing about the Ouija board. We just thought it was like messing with us. I don't know what we thought. And it would also do a circle really fast. And it would also do a figure 8 really fast. And thinking about it, it did that a lot of the times back when we thought it was, like spirits of our loved ones coming through. We thought it was like, my mom thought the circle meant I love you. And we thought M-A, M-A, because I call my mom Mama. So we thought that maybe it was talking to her, but we weren't really sure. But we knew nothing about like any Ouija board demons. We didn't know that anything negative could come through these boards at all, or we wouldn't have done it. So it started to get really vulgar. And I remember once, like when it got vulgar, it would say these obscenities over and over about 100 times, just as fast as it could. So once it said, my mom's name is Christy, so it said, Christy is a bitch, Christy is a bitch, Christy is a bitch, over and over and over and over. And one time, it was towards me and my sister, and it said, Reagan and Courtney are sluts, Reagan and Courtney are prostitutes, something along that line. Something calling us derogatory names, and just saying it over and over and over and over and over and over. And so, and like I said, we didn't know any of the rules. I've said this multiple times. We didn't know that we were supposed to say goodbye every time. We didn't know that we were supposed to close the session. We didn't know that we weren't supposed to let it go back and forth. I looked up all this, some years ago about all the rules of the Ouija board, and we failed every single one because we did every single thing that you're not supposed to do. And, you know, the internet wasn't super popular back then, obviously. So we didn't go on the internet and like research things like we do today. So we didn't know. We just thought, since it's a toy that you can buy, it's not a toy that you can buy in stores, that it should be harmless, but it was anything but harmless. And I didn't know that you weren't supposed to leave the planchette on the board, which we also did that. So even though that before we got the Ouija board, I do think that my mom's brother was there, you know, like doing stuff around the house before we got the Ouija board. But I think after we got the Ouija board was when all these evil things came in. And there's no telling how many evil things are there now, or, you know, what kind of spirits are there, or anything like that. So this is why I say, if you don't know what you're doing with a Ouija board, don't mess with it. Do not do it. Even if you think it's fake, don't do it. Even if nothing comes through, you never know. They could just be lying and acting like nothing came through, so you don't freak out and that you don't know that they're there, and then more things could start happening. And I think that even if you're well trained, or if you know what you're doing, I still don't think you should be messing with the Ouija board. I don't think anybody should be messing with the Ouija board. But if you are going to mess with it, I would say do your research first. Do not just go into it blind, because there is a world out there that we cannot see. Well, most of us cannot see. And there are creatures and evil things out there that we cannot fight because they are not visible to us. And there are way more stories that I have, but this is just the Ouija board aspect of it. But I will be sharing more stories in the future, but this is why I would say the Ouija board is dangerous. And even if you don't believe in stuff like this, I just wouldn't chance it. I wouldn't. Because crazy things can happen. And I believe now that we did all that and we used it for years and we didn't know what the hell we were doing, that we opened some kind of portal, maybe even more than one. And you can look back on my videos and see all the voices. Mostly, we catch a lot of voices. Mostly voices, but there's a few visual things in there. And I do have some more videos that I'm going to be posting of more evidence that we have captured recently. And I will say this. If you ignore the evil entities or demons, whatever you want to call them, if you ignore them, then it weakens it. It really does. If you live in fear of it, it feeds off of fear. So don't be scared of it. I mean, I know there's a lot of things that can happen that will be scary, but if you live in a constant fear of things like this, then it's just going to make it stronger. So if you don't want, you know, it to be powerful, then you have to ignore it the best you can. And I think it's probably too late for us, but yeah, I would say do not use a Ouija board, especially if you don't know what the hell you're doing like us. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here, but I just wanted to talk about the Ouija board and try to I know I don't even have that many subscribers right now, but I just want to maybe educate 1 or 2 people to not use the Ouija board. And I remember the last time I said, it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, the last time I used the Ouija board. For some reason, my mom like begged me for like an hour or so to use a Ouija board, and I don't know why. That was my cat at the door, sorry. And I don't know why she begged me, but I remember I did not want to. I did not want to touch this thing. And I know I said I was going to end it, but I have a few more things to say. So the moment that I put my fingers on that planchette, I had the worst neck pain that I have ever felt in my life. Like a sharp, just like terrible neck pain. Like someone was like trying to stab me or choke me or something like that. And yeah, I vowed to never touch one of those things again. And I don't even want to look at them when I see them in the stores. I was going to say something else about another story kind of thing that I had, but I do not remember. But we've had about 3 Ouija boards in that house. 3 of them that we purchased from the store. And we also made like 5 to 6 homemade Ouija boards. So when I tell you we were obsessed. And I don't even know what happened to the first couple Ouija boards. I don't remember. I don't even know why we had to get more after that. I don't know if something happened to them or they got thrown away. I don't really know. I don't remember. I do not remember what else I was going to say, but evil is real. Other dimensions are real. Portals are real. Evil entities are real. Demons are real. And like I said, I understand that some people do not believe because they haven't had any experience, but I am very open-minded because of all the things that I've been through over the years. And it's just best not to poke at it, even if you don't believe. I was trying my hardest to remember what else I was going to say, but I cannot remember. My mind just went blank. But that is my story of the Ouija board and the years and years of craziness. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. My goodness. I'm sorry. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And you have some allergies or something. But I'm going to go ahead and end this video for real this time. And I'm going to edit it and put it up. But I just wanted to let the dangers of the Ouija board be known and my personal experience of one and why you should never, ever, ever touch one.